Civilization is a complicated game. EVE Online is a complicated game. Dwarf Fortress is a very complicated game. I think these are complicated games, and I am, by all modern standards, an adult. Despite my personality, actions, and maturity level, I am one. When I wasn't one, meaning to say, when I was not one yet, by which I mean, when I had an abundance of youth and wonder, more games were complicated. More things were complicated. Everything around me was a display of sorcery which I thought I would one day understand purely by having time progress enough into an age of understanding it. I randomly came across Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4 Wall of Fire by complete chance one day. I did not know how to play it at the time, and I do not know how to play it now. My parents were in the process of a divorce in 2001, and I would spend every Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and Sunday morning at my father's prototypical post-marriage collapse rental property. A dimly lit, sad, divorced dad house, one day which he would trade it for something with a little more natural light, which really did take the edge off, I must admit. Due to the subtle emotional breakdown that was taking place within my young and soft brain that I was not conscious of, I would toss and turn every Saturday night, barely sleeping a wink and thoroughly sweating through my Tasmanian Devil pyjamas. Because of this, I would get up very early every Sunday morning. Without fail, I would right away power up the outdated 1999 Dell computer, making sure the large meshed external speakers were turned almost all the way down. I didn't want to rouse anyone else awake. I was only 10 years old, but this was my time, and I'll be damned if anyone disturbs it. As the saying goes, don't talk to me before I've had my 1999 Dell computer time at my divorced dad's house. I was greeted by a barren, teal-coloured desktop with shortcuts to classic Windows 98 fixtures such as My Computer, My Documents, and Winamp, which I would of course use to listen to one of the many classics from my WWF The Music Volume 5 CD, which I had received as a birthday gift from my mother, my preferred parent at the time. But much like the rock singing about pie, my opinion on that would be pretty flimsy and flip-flop going forward. But the shortcut I was looking for every Sunday morning was to ZSNES, my go-to entertainment source when a real console was not available. I had my comfort food games I would play most Sunday mornings, but more often than not I would start my session with a scatter shot of random ROMs dictated by whatever letter I would hit on the keyboard, and then how long I felt like holding the down arrow key before hitting enter. One morning it landed on Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4 Wall of Fire. As with every other random game I loaded up, I let the intro and/or demo a track screen play out. Go on, entice me, I thought. Pretty nice graphics, my tiny brain thought to its tiny self. With the imagery being thrown at me like swords, boats, and violence implying fire, I thought I'd be in store for an action game or more likely an RPG, the only genre I'd experienced any boat involvement in up to that point. From an early age, I've always thought I had a bit of a natural aptitude towards video games, but I'll admit, the menus that followed me selecting Start a New Game absolutely threw me. Scenario? Okay, maybe this is like selecting a character or level, I thought. Please select a ruler. Alright, I don't know the full implications of this yet, but let's just select one. Oh, I can keep choosing. Alright, let's do this, and that, and enter, I guess. Will I view battles between other rulers? I suppose I want to see those, I think. Which mode will I play? Historical or fictional? It's defaulted to historical, so let's do historical. Will newly created officers take part in this game? Man, I'm way over my head here. Is everything okay? My parents were in the process of a divorce. My parents were barely divorced. My parents were in the process of a divorce. One moment, please. Alright, very polite. Here we go. What is this? One thing I did know that was going on was that I was looking at a zoomed out world map because it had that big stretchy look, something I'd already seen in other games. I didn't know what Mode 7 was at the time, but I did know that Super Nintendo stretchy shit when I saw it, unforgettable. Two thing I did know was that I was vibing with the music, big time. I didn't know what a sound font or sampling was, obviously. I just knew Capcom games sounded kinda like this and Konami games sounded kinda like that. Just a bit of a subconscious observation as a kid, I guess. Good graphics and good music. Whatever they were putting in the hypothetical Three Kingdoms water dish, I was metaphorically lapping up, like the thirsty little dog I was. Three thing I did know was that I did not know. It was also confusing to me, and I thought I now don't know things I thought I did know, like how to play a video game or what a video game is. After selecting a few menu commands haphazardly, I closed the game. I was lost, intimidated, and small. Video games, my favourite thing in my narrow, trivial 10-year-old world, had hurt me. At this point, they were the only truly constant and secure source of comfort I had, and here I am, defeated, downtrodden, and utterly beta-cucked by the very thing I had relied on. Fast forward 7 days. There I am, in front of ZSNES in the wee hours of the mornings again, a virtual 16-bit world at my fingertips. My mind immediately was cast back to the feelings of discomfort and confusion, mixed with pleasure brought on by the clean graphics and spirited music. I was so hurt by this game, but I loved it. I went straight to Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4, without any further hesitation. Wreck me, please, I need it. I loaded up this ROM every Sunday morning, watched the intro, chose a leader, randomly hit commands for a turn or two, got confused and overwhelmed, and then shut it off and booted up the game I was actually going to play. Of course, I eventually stopped doing this. How long could these mini self-harm gaming sessions sustain me? The amount of disposable time I have seems to diminish with the passing of each calendar year, but I can't remember a 12-month period where I didn't, at least once, neglect to visit the land of milk and honey that is the ruler selection screen. For 22 years, I've been microdosing Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4 Wall of Fire, and I recently thought to myself, I should learn how to play this game. I have a few options on how to go about this. I could just jump into a new game and brute force my way into figuring it out by simply playing it heaps. My callous adult brain would eventually figure it out. Going back to my statement about constantly diminishing disposable time, I don't think this method is conducive to my lifestyle, since the style of my life is not a flush with the free time required to play a Super Nintendo game from 1994/1995 for hours on end. I could go online and watch a Let's Play of someone who is familiar with the game, or in a similar fashion I could read an in-depth FAQ or walkthrough of the game, laying the path of victory out in front of me before I even start playing. I'm not someone who has an elitist standard of gaming principles. People can enjoy games however they want. I don't think there is anything wrong with someone following a walkthrough or Let's Play every step of the way when playing a game. Some people don't have the time or patience to get good. Sometimes you just want to know how it works and how to win. But for this particular game, I think I'd be doing myself a disservice for immediately finding out how the sausage is made. What if, instead of discovering this game via emulation, I discovered it by having it? Let's say I got this game as a gift, I had it in my hands and physically put it into my Super Nintendo. What would I have actually done as a child to figure out how to play it? As with any game you owned as a kid, you would have to squeeze as much entertainment out of it as possible, since it wasn't up to you when you would get a new one, so not figuring out how to play one was not an option. The first thing I would have done as a kid would be to read the manual, so I guess we should start there and see what happens. So here I am, looking at a PDF of the manual and all set to gobble it up with my mind-mouth. I had a quick scroll through to see how long it was and what was in store, and then started reading it. To my surprise, a feeling that was a mixture of boredom and trepidation came over me pretty immediately. A feeling I hadn't experienced in many years. That same kind that you used to get looking over some required reading for a school assignment or exam. The feeling of uninteresting homework. Very quickly, this was starting to feel forced. I haven't had to force myself to read anything I didn't actually want to in a long time. And there it is. The realization that I don't want to read this manual. Actually, I don't want to play this game. I distinctly remember the time in my early 20s when I first went back to digest some media from my childhood. The first time that enough time had actually passed where I'd forgotten a sufficient amount that it felt new again. almost better than new because nostalgia was now mixed into it. All these old feelings and memories came flooding back, and with every video game you played and every cartoon you watched, a new, old feeling washes over you. It's been over a decade now since my first trip back to the decades previous. I have very little left that I haven't revisited at least a couple of times. It dulls over time, the fun nostalgia trips. You start to run out of memories as a kid because you can't make any new ones. Strangely, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4, in the very specific weird circumstances I used to play it in, is one of the last undissected memories I have from that time. I don't think I will get a great sense of accomplishment by learning how to play this game. The mystery will be completely gone, and I'll be left here with just a memory of that time, but the feeling the game evokes would fall away. I feel it might be best just to leave this one alone. I guess this didn't go quite the way I was expecting. Not exactly a very thorough overview of a video game, is it? This was more of an overview of my dad's housing situation after Marianne tossed him out. You might be thinking, well, what's the point of the video? Well, I got news for you, buddy. There's no point to anything. It actually didn't matter too much what happened with the Romance of the Three Kingdoms portion of this, as it was only to serve as a prologue. I sort of played that game in the bubble that was my divorced dad's house, despite having the clear handicap of not knowing how to play it. I want to now shift over to a game I was playing at my divorced mother's house, a game I definitely did know how to play at the time and do know how to play now. My mother's house, or as I would sometimes affectionately call it, my house, was bright, warm and familiar. Of course, I was taking a clear side in this divorce, which at the time I thought was my decision, but let's just say my mother knew how to play the separated parents game very well. One part of her tactics was to encourage my burgeoning video game addiction. So much so that this is a game she actually sat down and played with me. That's right, Marioismissing. For those that are familiar with the SNES library, you might be thinking, of all the games that were available, this is the one you were playing. That is correct. If I can be redundant for a moment, I was playing many games, and this was certainly one of them. Elephant in the room, this is an educational game, but something having educational aspects to it a bad game does it make? Nay, I say. I'm foggy on when I fully realised that this was a capital E educational game. I don't think I went into it knowing that, but I could have. I was all over the place when I was 10 years old. I barely knew how to brush my teeth or wipe my bum, let alone internally debate the merit of a game that teaches you geography. Mario stares up at the title screen in anticipation of what he is. Smart? Funny? Is he what we all aspire to be? Is Mario a good man? Mario is missing. Cut to Mario taking a nasty fall from a great height. He does not land on his feet, nor is there any cartoonish This game evokes a realism no other Mario game has ever dared attempt. Glad you could drop in. Luigi finishes his sentence with, "Come on, let's go." There is so much backstory we're missing here. Why are they going into what is presumably Bowser's castle in the first place? Not to jump ahead here, but there is no mention of the princess being kidnapped. The Mushroom Kingdom isn't being threatened and Toad isn't featured at all, so their status is unknown. This seems like a surprise attack on a dormant Bowser. Mario falls through yet another hole. Since Mario's clear weakness in all of his adventures up to this point has been bottomless pits, enforcing a bottomless pit forward attack strategy is genius war tactics. Bowser has clearly done his homework. Really, I can only interpret this as a defense mechanism kicking in, since Bowser has not actually done anything wrong at this point. I know he's done very naughty things in the past and will do so in the future, Speaking in full sentences was a bit much in my opinion, but he doesn't deserve the full wrath of both Mario Brothers and Yoshi completely unprovoked, does he? Luigi says, "You wait here, I'm going in to find him," then proceeds to go into the castle, not the hole, as he clearly implied. Luigi is cynical, sarcastic and stoic in this game, the exact thing I want from Luigi. Him saying to Yoshi, "You wait here," is also a huge misdirection because Yoshi is in literally every single level in the game. Of which there are 15 levels, which are split into groups of 5, across 3, and I'm air quoting while I say this, worlds. And what are the levels? Why, they're major cities from across the globe, of course. This is a reason why I felt the need to air quote as I said world, because each level is from the same world, since that world is Earth. The term world, when used in the context of video games, usually refers to a section of a game separated from the previous and upcoming sections by an abstraction of a gate of some sort. But since this game takes place on our literal Earth, world is a heavy term and I honestly should have avoided using it. These chunks of the game are also presided over by the Koopa Kids, the first being Ludwig, as seen on his fancy little pennant flag here. While you can choose any door from each set of 5, playing the levels in any order you wish, I always choose to play from left to right, not the opposite, since I am not Japanese. As we enter the first level here, you'll notice that we are indeed in the real human world. A world full of human-made structures with human things like doors and door frames. You have access to a menu here with many wonders to behold. An artifact bar with 3 blank spaces, a computer option which opens up a grid graph which I'll explain later, a globulator option which I'll also explain later, a city map which shows a nice Super Mario World style of the city that you're in, and lastly, photo album. And would you believe it? I'm going to explain that later as well. You can also toggle on and off a nice little mini-map up here too. Each level, you enter through a blue pipe, of which emerges a Pokey who doesn't budge, so you can't return from the way you came. A Pokey is not the only familiar face to Mario fans here, as a Koopa Trooper immediately appears, yet he inflicts no harm upon Luigi and seems to just be milling about. Any warm-blooded video game player would have an overwhelming desire to jump on a Koopa Trooper as one appears, which is exactly what you should do. To your surprise though, instead of charmingly shooting out from their shell, they crumble and leave behind an item that can only be described as miscellaneous. Because I've played this game before, I understand that to pick up these crumpled misc items you have to jump. If you pull up the menu now, you can see that there is now an image of one of those blank spaces in the artifact bar. Wandering down the street a bit further, who is this? Remember how I said there is no mention of the princess being kidnapped? Well, that's still true and she hasn't, but she does have a job, it looks like. I have a job, and in a way, have I not been kidnapped by capitalism? It's not stated at any point whether or not this is actually Princess Peach, and I believe it doesn't really need to be clarified. It's an educational game featuring Mario characters, and they wanted to slot the princess in somewhere, and this is where she landed. The tourism kiosk. I'm okay with it, I can handle it. If you talk to her, you can ask her why the landmark she's stationed at is closed. She explains that it's missing a valuable piece of it, like the sign says, bud, then presents you with some reading material on the landmark. We picked something up earlier, we can offer it to her. Unfortunately, we picked up the top of the Trans-America Pyramid, and if we cast our minds back to the pamphlet she just gave us, they're missing the Golden Gate Bridge foghorn. These are dramatically different items. I know what you're thinking, the top of the Trans-America Pyramid, how is that possible that a Koopa or Luigi could be holding such a thing? The Trans-America Pyramid is 853 feet tall, and if we look at the artifact image, Luigi is holding at least 200 feet of it. If it said we obtained a grain of cement taken from the absolute tip of the Trans-America Pyramid, yes, we would now have the top of the structure, in a literal sense, and Luigi could hold it. I don't think the entire building would be closed down in that scenario, but it could happen. I understand that what the game is presenting does not make any actual sense, and not to brag, but much like the Princess Peach cameo, which I feel doesn't need to be explained and that I can handle it, this too, I can handle. Luigi does have the top of the Trans-America Pyramid. Why? Because Marioismissing on the SNES told me he does. Can you handle such an absurd concept? I certainly hope so, because at one point in this game, and this is a spoiler, Luigi has the entire ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in his hands, so strap in. Now that we've established how fine with this we all are, here is how the actual game is played. Once you arrive in a city, it doesn't outright tell you where you are. You have to figure out where you are through the artifacts you find and the people you talk to. There are 5 NPCs you can run into: a child, a tourist, a young woman, a scientist, and a police officer. You can ask them either, "Where am I?" which will lead them to give you a hint about where you are, and "What is this?" and they will give you some info about the artifact you have selected in the menu. Once you talk to some people and read some pamphlets from the kiosks, you can go into the computer section of the menu and it will show you who you've spoken to regarding where you are and if you've asked them about the artifacts. It also keeps track of whether or not you've read the pamphlets. Speaking of reading pamphlets, I feel I should own up to something. Earlier I mentioned how Bowser has seemingly done nothing wrong and asked why the Mario brothers are entering his castle at all. A pamphlet that I had read many times before had the answer to this question. The instruction booklet holds all the Marioismissing lore you could ever desire. I know why the Mario brothers are at Bowser's castle, and I know why Bowser had a defense mechanism armed and ready. Bowser has been a naughty boy. As stated in the manual, Bowser has sent his cronies to steal ancient artifacts from around the world using passcode-operated remote transport and larceny systems, portals, which look a lot like doors, operating out of his Antarctic castle in Antarctica. This explains why there are Koopa Troopers running around the cities of the world with stolen artifacts, the concept of artifacts anyway, no matter the real world size of them. As a reminder, we can all handle that. The name of the game is Marioismissing, but really that's the least of the world's problems. I'm not sure if anyone would pay much mind to Mario being missing as much as the top quarter of a 48-story building being snapped off and taken away by a 2-foot-tall turtle, a concept I can handle, obviously. Luigi has to find Mario, sure, but he also has to literally rebuild the entire culture and history of planet Earth, a feat Mario has yet to even come close to accomplishing, might I add. There are 3 artifacts per city to find and return, which means 3 Koopas in the city have an artifact each and the rest have nothing. If a Koopa does not have an artifact, they will simply disappear in a puff of smoke. If they do have an artifact, they will have a crazy animation of them crumbling, flying off into space or exploding, and then they will drop detritus. Go to kiosks, read the pamphlets, and match up what you found with what is missing. But is it as easy as simply returning the missing artifacts? Of course not. She needs proof you have the genuine article. You have to answer what she asks. You need to prove to her that you are good enough for her. After scouring the city, I had in my possession the foghorn from the Golden Gate Bridge, a window from the Coit Tower, and of course the aforementioned top of the Transamerica Pyramid. Wasting no more time, I read the pamphlet on the Coit Tower, answered her questions, and she was delighted to see it returned. The mayor has authorised a reward payment of $1,999. The year is 1993, and Frank Jordan is a generous and benevolent mayor. The Coit Tower is restored, and what a shame it would be to leave without getting a photo. For each landmark you repair, you get a photo to add to your photo album. Marioismissing has not changed the gaming landscape in any way. It is not an important game. But this sprite of a squat Luigi holding a camera is very important. I love it. It should be noted, even in the anguish of losing his brother, Luigi remembered to pack a camera. Next, the foghorn. The iconic bridge is restored to its former glory, and another $2,240 is in our pocket. Finally, the time has come. This 200-foot spire is heavy on our back. In all the excitement, I foolishly said that the Transamerica Pyramid was located next to the zoo, when it has been clearly stated it is on Columbus Avenue. She is not impressed, and tells me to come back when I have my facts straight. Goodbye. Upon talking to her again, she states she's too busy to talk and to come back later. I know this is a lie, she's ignoring me on purpose, and it's exactly what I deserve. Luckily, crossing the street a few times and walking around the block is enough time for her to cool off and give me another chance. I do not mess it up this time, receive $1,600 and get to see the Transamerica Pyramid as God intended, whole. So that's all 3 landmarks fixed up, so now what? Once you determine where in the world you are, which at this point has been made quite clear that Luigi is in San Francisco, that's when you open up the Globulator, a made-up word, which I enjoy. The Globulator is a map of the world, the purpose of which is to guide Yoshi to the city that you're in. He is currently stationed in Antarctica, which is exactly where Luigi told him to wait, and now is telling him to go exactly somewhere else. Once you guide Yoshi to where in the world you are and exit the globulator, you return to the city streets to see that you are now riding Yoshi. What's the purpose of this? Well, you can now move a lot faster for one, but secondly and most importantly, you can now go back to the blue pipe you came out of and scare away the pokey that was preventing you from leaving. San Francisco is saved, or secured, I guess. The music here is more intense than San Francisco, and the sky has an ominous fog. We're not in the good old US of A anymore. We can't be. It's too Byzantine. Fortunately, I snagged an artifact straight away, and this will give us a clue to where we are. Ah, Tetris. Mother Russia is intense, which explains the music. Luigi is the most intense man I could possibly think of. Remember what he said to Mario earlier? I found her, almost immediately. I even have what she wants. The blue Tetris. I didn't even read the pamphlet, I just thought I'd try to vibe it out. And it paid off. Luigi and Russia share a bond. 2,250 is the reward for this. Russia is not hard up for rubles, and 1993 Mayor of Moscow Yuri Luzkov knows it. Strong start in a strong city. A city where, in my opinion, all the Koopas should rocket into space when you jump on them. That would have been a nice touch. Let's keep the excitement going by engaging with tourists and locals. It's a name game. First it was Russia, then the Soviet Union, now it's Russia again. It's all just a game, isn't it? It doesn't matter who you czar, Moscow has been the capital of the Soviet Union since 1918. On the surface this guy might seem like a local, with his little czar pun there, yet he is elected to use the spelling C-Z-A-R in czar as opposed to T-Z-A-R. Using C-Z-A-R, while meaning the same thing and pronounced exactly the same, is more commonly used in American English, whereas T-Z-A-R is more common in Slavic people. I wish I could find out more about this man. From Moscow you can ride the Trans-Siberia Railway 5,800 miles through 2 continents. You can ride the Yoshi 97 million square miles across the entire planet. This skipping child, bewildered at where he is standing, says, "Wow, I'm not sure they planned it, but it's the biggest country on the planet." I do believe they planned it, my dear boy, but we don't have time for that. We've scoured the streets of Moscow and turned up the remaining 2 artifacts, a large cannon and a pair of ballet shoes. Returning the ballet shoes, we get down to business. Filling artistic blanks that have to be filled by the graphical limitations of the software, tourist kiosk Peach would be most likely inspecting the ballet shoes as she asks. Alexander Gorsky is said to have introduced what into ballet? Luigi stares at the woman he can't seem to avoid. This is his 4th encounter with her and he hopes not the last. This is a strong, demanding woman in a position of power, holding a pair of worn ballet shoes, interrogating Luigi about them. New feelings are bubbling within him. The answer to her question is realism. We get 1,500 rubles, a nice photo, and something else. Alexander Gorsky is said to have introduced realism into ballet, but tourist kiosk Peach is said to have introduced a foot fetish into Luigi. Anyway, we have 1 artifact left, this enormous cannon. Weirdly, when we arrive at the Kremlin to return said cannon, it states they are missing a cannonball from the Emperor's cannon. So are they not awfully fussed about getting the cannon back, as long as they get the cannonball that's inside it? They seem much more concerned about the cannonball, to the extent they put out a report that it's missing. The Emperor's actual cannon isn't a big deal though, it's strange. If you got your gun stolen, you wouldn't proclaim someone has stolen my bullets. To further add to the confusion, the pamphlet states they're missing the cannonball, but the article itself is about the cannon. Take both of them, whatever ends this confusion. 1,600 rubles and a photo of the Kremlin later, Luigi and Yoshi are leaving the motherland. Wide open plains, thatched roofs. I could take an educated stab at where we are now. Upon speaking to her, She informs us that the Maasai village is closed because they're missing a headdress. Luigi will have to see the Maasai jumping ceremony another day. Maybe you and I could jump together, Luigi thinks. The young woman lets us in on a secret and says, "Is Africa your cup of tea? Because Kenya is the world's third largest producer, just between you and me." Absolutely massive statistic to be kept between just two people. I'm not sure I can keep this one to myself, lady. The other catch she lets out of the bag is that we are in Africa, which was fairly obvious. Specifically, the place of cool waters, Nairobi. After a string of bad luck and stomping only decoy Coopers, we obtain our first Kenyan artifact. Oh no, I hope that's a painting of an elephant or a trinket shaped like an elephant. It's with a heavy heart, I admit. This is most likely an actual elephant. It's okay, I can handle this. It's not too much for me. She tells us the National Museum is missing a human skull. She has a nice shaped skull, Luigi thinks to himself. Tired of travelling? You can sleep in the cradle of civilization in the nearby famous Rift Valley. The Rift Valleys in Africa are where heaps of very, very well preserved, very, very old human and animal fossils have been found. Hence the cradle of civilization line, he says here. It's an extremely strange suggestion that we go sleep there. Enormous valleys caused by millions of years of tectonic plates moving apart, littered with human remains. Does he want Luigi to go and sleep there forever? This is a threat. He says something else that sucks, and he confirms that we are indeed holding an elephant, not a representation of an elephant. It isn't too much for me to handle though. We obtain another artifact, the missing human skull. And this legend says the director of the National Museum of Kenya is out of his head with worry over the skull's whereabout. That's better, that's the banter I'm here for. This guy really does kick ass because he also claims to have climbed Mount Everest and Mount Fuji, and now he's here to climb Mount Kenya, just to keep his reputation up. Mate, you've climbed Mount Everest, you're done, you did it. Reputation secured. Let's return this skull, shall we? Of course, this could be anyone's skull. You can't turn a corner these days without tripping over piles of human skulls. We have to answer her questions. We have the option to say that anthropologists believe Kenya to be the birthplace of mankind because there was leftover birthday cake, which is, without a shadow of a doubt, the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life up to this point. We now have 2,800 Kenyan shillings in our elephant-sized pockets. Thanks, Steve, Flavian Mwangi. Nairobi has brought out the sillies in Luigi for some reason, because you can say some more really funny shit. But let's not. 2,400 Kenyan shillings. The last artifact we find is the first one we heard about. She declines Luigi's offer to partake in an Adamu ceremony with him because it would be inappropriate and culturally insensitive, and she seems very put off by the suggestion. Back to square one, champ. Regardless, we still receive our reward of another 2,400 Kenyan shillings. Maybe you'll get her in the next city, Yoshi says to Luigi. After securing 3 cities, Ludwig appears and seems to have a bee in his bonnet and is seen behind this metal gate, huffing and puffing his little heart out, annoyed at Luigi's progress in restoring the cultural history of planet Earth, as any villain would be. If he's got a problem, he can open that gate and say it to Luigi's face if he has the guts. After opening our eyes for 1 second, it can be assumed that we are in Asia. It's an ever safer assumption when Mr. Everest over here basically says, "Welcome to China." Since we immediately picked up an artifact, which is a brick, and can ask about it, he gives me my now go-to fact about the Great Wall of China. You can keep your "can be seen in space" BS. It is 5 horses wide. With this game's logic, I'm shocked the game has shown some restraint and we only have a single brick of the Great Wall of China and not something larger. Sorry, China is closed today. Mongolia has been stolen. Let's not beat around the bush here. Let's get our green dragon over to the red dragon.
Ho-ho! Bingo!
The next artifact we find is the Gate of Heavenly Peace, as in the whole thing. So we have one brick from the Great Wall of China, and now we have like 1,000 more bricks. Don't get them mixed up, Luigi. To avoid such an embarrassing blunder, let's return the specific Great Wall of China brick first. Reading the pamphlet, we get the awesome 5 horses wide fact, and the basic and crap can be seen from space fact. Retaining this info and then some awards us 1,225 renminbi, courtesy of Mayor Chen Zhitong. Long may he reign as Mayor of Beijing. In all the excitement of returning that brick, I neglected to mention we picked up the third artifact, which is the Hall of Good Harvest. So we need to take a time out here. This is Trans-America Pyramid levels of ludicrous. I mean, look at this thing. It doesn't say a tile, statue, or even one of the pillars. It says the Hall of Good Harvest. That means the whole thing. Also, from what I can tell, it's actually called the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest. But that's beside the point. And listen, I understand that we are holding the Gate of Heavenly Peace. I'm aware of that. Yeah, that probably does mean the entire structure as well, but the word gate allows some mental wiggle room, and you can easily sit back and believe you just have, the frame for the opening or some sort of door or something, not the 79,872 cubic meters that is the whole building. I know that's delusional, and this game is requesting me to try to handle it again, and believe me, I can, but Luigi holding this thing is pushing my brain to its limits. This game makes you break down mental barriers you never even knew you had. I can't go into this any more than I already have. Just give me my measly 1,610 renminbi photo. An absolute pittance in relation to what I have restored. Back to returning bricks. It's time to get this pesky Gate of Heavenly Peace, or Tiananmen, off our hands. She thinks we don't know anything about Tiananmen. She has no idea.
It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace, which, as it happened, was already occupied. He walked to the middle and stood there.
I'm a Luigi.
The man was alone. The tank was not.
1,750 renminbi is not enough. What we have repaired in Beijing is immense and will never be forgotten. This is sort of a riddle. Remember Nero and his fiddle? This hint actually requires a little bit of knowledge about ancient history, knowing who Nero was and his fiddle playing at inappropriate times. This, coupled along with this Colosseum-shaped structure on the map screen, you might be able to predict where we are. Comment below if you stan Nero. Right away we're in business and have our first artifact. I know this game doesn't play by the rules, but I've got to assume we have the spear, not a disembodied arm holding a spear. Let's ask this kid about it. That's from the Colossal Arena. It sat 50,000 ancient Roman dudes. Right on. Where are we? Maybe I should wear a suit, because this country is shaped like a boot. Alright, that's enough. As luck would have it, we're right at the kiosk that needs the spear, the Roman Colosseum. She asks us how many Roman dudes fit in this place and who would use the spear, and we can instantly answer. She has to be impressed. Luigi wishes she would come and watch a show with him sometime, over dinner, somewhere intimate, a place that would only fit like 100 Roman dudes, max. 2,000 lira given to us from the mayor. I'm not sure who to thank, because depending on the month this game takes place in 1993, it could be either Franco Carraro or Francesco Rutelli. What a conundrum. This would be a good time to get Luigi's chariot over to the Colosseum. We tear through Coopers on the streets of Rome and find a naked man. Let's ask this police officer about this lost naked man. The Pope went through the roof when that turned up missing. The Vatican isn't the same without it. Amen, brother. I'd lose my marbles if my big naked man was stolen too. I'll drop the gag about us carrying around a naked man now, because I do believe we have found the aforementioned ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. This piece of art famously features a naked man. art takes a long time to truly appreciate, so we'll hang on to this for a moment while we search for the remaining artifact, which turns out to be some coins. One of the few appropriately sized items in the game. You can easily put these in your pocket. In fact, that's where most people put them. The idea of Luigi collecting some coins fills me with joy. He truly is a Super Mario brother in this moment. In this increasingly cashless society, what does that mean for the Mushroom Kingdom? Something to think about. Something else to think about is the entry-level trivia for priceless pieces of history, like that Michelangelo is who painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and that the Sistine Chapel is located in the Vatican and not Michelangelo's house. 900 lira. These coins we picked up earlier are from the Trevi Fountain, which explains why they're so wet. Throwing coins into the Trevi Fountain over your shoulder is a tradition, so I understand why coins are significant to the landmark. I know that by the end of this video we're all going to be sick of me getting into the weeds on these artifacts, but really, I'm not sure some random coins someone has tossed into the Trevi Fountain really stack up to what we've been collecting so far. An entire baby elephant, the front of a building, the top of a building. These are all pretty vital things to do with the thing. If I feel I went to the Trevi Fountain and there were a couple of coins missing, I wouldn't miss them. With how this game has been playing fast and loose with the rules of basic physics up to this point, I'm surprised I'm not returning the water to the Trevi Fountain. We get 1500 lira for these coins, which is almost double what we got for returning the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I'm not Italian, but I don't understand the mayor's priorities on this one. You know who is Italian? Luigi. I hope he gets to visit again one day, under better circumstances. That's the first set of 5 levels completed, and here we get a taste of what the boss battles are like in this game. I'm a pretty big defender of this game, but I must admit, this was a swing and a miss. It's a purely simple jumping test of hitting him a few times. There's no threat here since you can't take any form of damage. I feel a better way of implementing a boss encounter in this game, since it's educational, would have been something along the lines of a final test where you answer a question about each city you just visited. Almost anything would have been better than what we have here. Nothing would have been better if you just moved on to the next set of levels. This is very far away from being a great video game, despite my affection for it. I'm very aware of that, and this is one of the reasons why. With Ludwig defeated, we move on to the next set of levels here, which seem to be managed by either Iggy or Lemmy. More modern Mario fans might think that this is clearly Lemmy. Look at the rainbow hair. But I must remind you that when they were still known as the Koopa Kids, both Lemmy and Iggy had rainbow hair. In their modern representation, now called the Koopalings, Iggy got his spring onion makeover. I can read your mind thinking, Koopalings? Man, I miss the times when they were the Koopa Kids and were referred to as Bowser's children. Yeah, me too, mate. Growing older and things changing can be hard sometimes. I still don't know how I feel about Bowser Jr. and he's been around for 22 years. Before anything, let's see if she can give us an indication of where we are with this pamphlet here. Let's hold up for a second here actually. I've been calling these pamphlets the whole time because that's what she called them. I think the journey of all of us pretending these aren't newspapers has come to an end. It says extra extra. I don't know about you, but where I'm from this basically translates to newspaper. It says sports, page 11, another damning piece of evidence. Despite all of this, she says pamphlet, I say pamphlet. Anyone who glossed over the article would have probably figured out where we are. It's sandwiched between Spain and Germany, and they used French bread. Yeah, okay, that's about all I can handle of that. Let's just get Yoshi over to France, shall we? You'll see in this footage I am jumping all over the map in Europe here. I'll admit, I got in the educational spirit and decided to learn where some things were. They got me. I'm learning. I think we'll load up on artifacts and return them all at once, so we'll have to do a tour of France, if that makes sense. Let's get this over with. What mental hoops will I have to jump through to understand this one? We've got a French flag, alright, that's fine, that is stealable. We've got the Notre Dame bell. Okay, that's huge, but it's not the weirdest thing we've seen. And finally, and this could be the hardest one to comprehend yet, we have, from the Arc de Triomphe, the eternal flame. Not the building, not the area around the flame, not Napoleon's corpse, the flame, the actual fire. Don't worry, I'm also sick of me being outraged at these more fluid artifacts. As a reminder, I can handle it. I'm in the process of handling it right now. Let's get this bell back to the cathedral so that fella with the kyphosis can keep doing his thing. 1,190 francs later and we're getting a photo. Now you're saying, hold on a second here mate, francs? Lira? What are you talking about? How quickly you forget that this adventure takes place in 1993. You know, Jurassic Park, Ace of Base, Waco. The flame has to be last. I need to hold on to this concept for as long as possible. The flag is next. The Eiffel Tower is a very romantic location, in a very romantic city, you know. For what occasion was the Eiffel Tower built? For what occasion can I take you to dinner? What was the profession of the man who designed the Eiffel Tower? What was the profession of the man who stole your heart? Plumber. Regrettably, the romance in the air had no bearing on her questions and we leave with 1,400 francs, a photo of one of the most photographed structures in existence, and a lonely heart. The eternal flame is burning a hole in our pocket. We need to return it. Jacques Chirac is sure to reward us with more francs, of which Luigi has 9 years to spend before he would have to go through the laborious process of exchanging them for euros. Although Luigi didn't have much going on in 2002, so this is fine. This can keep him busy while Mario is off doing community service and having short sleeves. Napoleon, 1836, 1,750 francs. This wouldn't be the last time someone extinguishes the eternal flame. 5 years later, another villain would emerge. Anyway, I'll say what a lot of tourists say in Paris after spending a day there. Let's leave. Look at that warm sunset. That's more like it. I think Luigi is coming around on hot weather. This world tour is turning him into more of a summer fan. I say this because I get the feeling that Luigi is more of a cold weather guy. I would bet money Luigi is the kind of guy that likes rugging up in winter, enjoying a cup of tea with a roaring fire, maybe reading a book. That's what he gets up to in Pipe House. Yeah, I know that Pipe House in Mario RPG is labelled as Mario's pad and there is only one bed in it, but where the hell else would Luigi live? Nimbus Land? What a fucking stupid thing to say. In Paper Mario, he absolutely lives in the same house as Mario, and that house says Mario on the front of it. Pokey looks good in this city. Here she is, straight away. What's missing? The Angel of Independence. Alright, let's have a read here. Heart of Mexico City, okay, that gives it away. 150-foot golden cherub, okay, that's fine, not the biggest or weirdest thing we've retrieved. Honours the heroes of the Mexican Revolution, cool. The city's natives use the beautiful angel as a geographic landmark. So you're missing a beautiful angel. Because from where I'm standing, Luigi says, it looks like I've found one. Luigi is a summer guy, he's feeling more confident. Before we go gallivanting around Mexico, the song playing here has reminded me that Marioismissing has a few remix tracks from Super Mario World. The track playing right now in Mexico is like the Star Road theme. You've got the title screen, which is the overworld theme, but just like worse. And the City Secured jingle is the same as the intro screen but in a minor key or something, just a little different. Besides these obvious ones, there's just a bunch of Mario leitmotifs strewn throughout. These are little things that make life worth living. A hat dance will soon be in order when you realise you're south of the United States border. We pick up some sort of book and foolishly ask this man about it. I guess the museum's gift shop sells those. It's a fair enough response to such a stupid question, really. Hey, you, what is this? Yeah, that's a book, buddy. It's not long before we see her. Why is the National Palace closed? Oh, I see. The 1,200 square foot mural painting is missing. Hey, that'll do it. Don't you worry, it may have taken Diego Rivera and his 16 full-time assistants 16 years to paint it, but you just hang tight for 5 minutes. I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail to chuck it back up there for you. After picking up the mural on the same street 10 seconds after leaving the kiosk, we come across the Fine Arts Palace. We can return this book, which is actually a fine arts catalogue. You can buy these at the museum's gift shop. Unlike if actual fine art was MIA, I'm not sure a museum would be terribly fussed about a single catalogue being missing, let alone grilling the person with questions about the museum in order to give it back. This might well be the silliest thing to happen in the entire game. No choice but to do it anyway and get 900 pesos from Manuel Aguilera Gomez for our troubles. This street is absolutely bustling because the Angel of Independence is here as well, like stomping Coopers in a barrel. What did I tell you? Here we are, 2 shakes of a lamb's tail later with the mural. That probably would have taken Diego and his assistants years to get back. 1,800 more pesos. Our last destination was our first destination. Let's give Mexico's angel back to Luigi's angel. You know, if someone tried to steal a statue of you, I would scour the earth to get it back. Not just like these 3 blocks of Mexico. 1,500 pesos is nothing compared to making her smile. I recognise those clams anywhere. We're in Sydney, Australia. That's the Opera House, that's Bondi Beach, and that's Taronga Zoo. Hold on, the guy narrating this sounds pretty Australian. That's right, you got me. Am I from Sydney? No, I am not. Not to add fuel to the fire of a pointless rivalry or anything, but I am definitely not from Sydney because I am from Melbourne. For those not from Australia, Melbourne, like Sydney, is on the east coast of Australia, about 700 kilometres south of Sydney. I said kilometres, how Australian of me. Why is there a rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne? Well, why is there a rivalry between any 2 cities in the same country? Convict settlements, my dear boy. That's how it started anyway. You see, Sydney was founded by convicts that were sent by the British, whereas Melbourne was founded by free settlers, which some would say was a win for Melbourne, but really the whole thing is a win for England, isn't it? More modern reasons would be things like how Sydney started the National Rugby League, whereas Melbourne invented Australian rules football and started the Australian Football League. Or how they've both been named best city in the world heaps of times. They both have a very similar population and both cities are the biggest earners in terms of tourism. You can see why they're compared to each other a lot. In any case, the rivalry is pretty baseless. There's not a massive amount of real differences in the cities. I'm fairly neutral on the topic, but I will say that the key differences I've noticed are that Melbourne has good coffee, a tram public transport system, and a thriving art scene, whereas Sydney is a doo-doo infested hellhole full of ugly idiots. Let's get through this quickly so we can leave. Alright, so we've ended up with a surfboard, a koala, and some sheep music. Surfboard at Bondi Beach gets us $1,260. The koala from Taronga Zoo gets us $2,100. A great answer is available on one of the questions here. Big thumbs up to the writers on that one. And we get $1,190 for the sheep music at the Opera House. Yeah, cheers Frank, good on you mate. shades of Mexico City here, bringing recent warm memories back to Luigi. Maybe if Luigi plays his cards right, he could meet her here at the hotel for a drink after her shift. Funnily enough, a Google search shows that there is in fact a real Hotel Esplendido in Spain. Are we in Spain? Was this hotel around in 1993? Is this an actual reference to this real hotel? It was built in 1954, that's 39 years where someone on this game's team could have visited. It's a possibility. This is South America. Take a peek at the Andes, world's second highest peaks. If you want to see the world's highest peak, you meet me at the hotel later. This boy is throwing a spanner in the works here. South America? Spain isn't in South America, contrary to what I embarrassingly thought for the entire first half of my life. So if we're not in Spain, then this Hotel Esplendido is either A, a reference to the Spanish hotel, but we don't end up going to Spain in this game, so one of the developers put it in here, in a culturally similar city, or B, a coincidence. Very soon we find an artifact, a plain, grey stone. Whoa, what a find! There she is. You, my dear, are Esplendido. Anyway, this is the wrong place. This is the Gaucho Museum, and they are looking for a Bolidaris, which is categorically quite different to a featureless, indistinctive, wearying rock. This pamphlet mentions Argentina, so Buenos Aires it is. I couldn't resist, and after some searching, there is a Hotel Splendid in Buenos Aires. Close enough for me. Tell me what this rock is. That's a part of a tall monument to Buenos Aires. Climb it outside and it might be scary. How could you know that this plain slab of hardened materials is part of a certain monument? Very suspicious if you ask me, but by far not the strangest thing we've come across. My dinosaur and I will let you live on this occasion. Espanol is the national language in Buenos Aires.
Sí, lo es.
We find the other two artifacts, a flute and what I assume is the Bolidaris referenced earlier. It seems a few stones shy of a Bolidaris, and this is more of a simple rope. But hey, I'm not Argentinian and I have no right speculating on what is or what isn't a Bolidaris. The first stop is the Obelisk Monument, which is one big boring pebble short. She rejects Luigi's invitation to Hotel Esplendido and 2,375 Argentine pesos from Saul Bauer is our consolation prize. Would you believe it? Right around the corner is the Teatro Colón. Did you know that experts say the Teatro Colón has the best acoustics for opera in the world? Wow! How are the acoustics for making out? Back at the Gaucho Museum, we get no clarification on where the stone balls are for the Bolidaris, and the rope will suffice. She rejects Luigi's invitation to Hotel Splendid, and 2,090 Argentine pesos from Saul Bauer is our consolation prize. Goodbye, Argentina. I'm sorry I thought you were Spain. Well, fairly obvious giveaway of where we are here. Let's walk around on foot for a minute, just for the sake of it. Humour us, where are we? I got the drachmas, bring on those famous Greek dramas. One of the weaker NPC rhyming hints there. Drachma sounds so ancient. I understand there was a difference between ancient drachmas and modern drachmas, but the word drachma is so synonymous with ancient history to me. And I am wrong here, it's not ancient, it's in my lifetime. Greece still uses drachmas until like 3 months after 9/11, wild. Searching for Koopas to stomp on has become a bit tedious at this point. A man who has been through bitter experiences and travelled far enjoys even his sufferings after a time. One of the brass plaques is missing from the Arch of Hadrian. It doesn't state exactly which is missing, but on one it says this is Athens, the ancient city of Theseus, and on the other it says this is the city of Hadrian, and not of Theseus. We better get to it, or else people might think Hadrian is of Theseus. Each man delights in the work that suits him best. Of the 3 artifacts, the first we're returning is a caryatid from the Erechtheian temple. Each carotid has a lovely face. What are they meant to replace? Now that's a rhyme. Thanks for the 1650 drachmas, Leonidas Kouris. Our second stop is the Parthenon, where another column is missing. First a lady-shaped column, and now a column-shaped column. The second extremely heavy, solid stone sculpture that we're carrying. Any more of them and I might not be able to handle it. This column is worth slightly less to Leonidas, 1500 drachmas, 150 drachmas less than the carotid. Must be that Leonidas Kouris doesn't have boobs tax. Finally, let's get this unspecified one of two brass plaque, back to the arch to make sure everyone is across what is and isn't of Theseus. There is no greater fame for a man than that which he wins with his footwork or the skill of his hands. My name is nobody. Big throwdown with Cooper Kid number 2 now. I said before that this could either be Iggy or Lemmy due to the rainbow hair. Various sources online say it's Iggy, and I believe that due to when you're looking at him side on, he clearly has glasses on. I feel his green hair in future is an upgrade. The fact that 2 Coopers had rainbow hair is weird. We just love being mean. God, Morton looks gross, doesn't he? State of him compared to the others. The third and final set of cities is controlled by Roy Cooper, one of the more memorable of the Cooper kids due to his glasses and smooth pink head. I'd love to know how they determined which of the 3 Cooper kids they would use for this. If going by Super Mario World lore, the order was Iggy, Morton, Lemmy, Ludwig, Roy, Wendy, and Larry. In this game, it's Ludwig, Iggy, Roy, which completely throws any order out the window, it's just whoever. It's a safe bet to assume they omitted Wendy because the sprite would be too different to simply swap out a couple of things and keep the body the same. But if that's the logic, why didn't they use Iggy, Lemmy, and Larry, who all have vertical spiky hair? That would have been the easiest if they didn't want to redraw stuff. Roy and Morton are an easy swap too. Just get rid of Roy's glasses and make him disgusting and you've got Morton. Anyway, let's tackle these final 5 cities. This gives it away immediately. I refuse to do a British accent at any point in this section. I simply refuse because that is beneath what this video is about. This video is about how I can handle Marioismissing. Prince Charles will one day be king. If you know you're in London, you know everything. Well, they're definitely right about that first part. What is that second part all about? If you know you're in London, you know everything? What? This confused me for some reason. I googled the phrase. It's not a reference to something as far as I can tell. I understand that the NPCs in this game pretty much always give you some rhyming sentence about where you are, but this one does not compute with me. It really doesn't have anything to do with England or London. If they said something like, Prince Charles will one day be king, invite me over for tea and biscuits, I will bring. That's a hint. I know that's not a great example and can definitely use a second past, and honestly most of the things I've written here could use a thorough edit, but you get my point. Unless they're referring to you, the player, having to know where you are in order to get Yoshi there. If you know you're in London, you know you're in London. They give you the answer to the question they're referring to in the same breath as the hint to the question. It's like if a test said, if a train is travelling at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, how long would it take them to get to their destination, which is 3 hours away? We need to visit the Big Ben and 2 other places. Let's get cracking here. You've landed in London in time for tea. While in England, I'm known as a female Bobby. I think just Bobby is fine. We're 2 for 2 here with NPCs just flat out telling you exactly where you are. Amongst all this welcoming to London, we've retrieved what looks like the crown jewels, a bust of Shakespeare and... oh man, let's get rid of this first. Question about the BBC and the height of the thing, and thanks for the £1,200 and a weird red and green coloured photo of the Big Ben. You, what is this? Heads will roll, as they did long ago, unless the crowns are replaced. You deserve to know. I do deserve to know. Tower of London next. Pretty massive thing to get stolen, the crown jewels. Absolutely massive. The reward must be life-changing. Such a lazy setup there. We all knew it would be a low amount. I'm sorry. Much like you, viewer, I am running out of steam with this video. Take your hat and give me my £2,400 Francis McWilliams, you cheapskate. Alright, Westminster Abbey needs their bust of Shakespeare back. Okay, I'm here, and you're absolutely correct if you expected me to do a thing about Luigi talking to Peach about this bust and then says something about her bust, following this narrative that Luigi is always hitting on Kiosk Peach. This running gag also only makes sense if, in this game, Peach has an Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy type family tree because she simply cannot be in all these places like this. I'm being very transparent about my creative fatigue in London. This video about Marioismissing is too long. I'm in too deep at this point, but it is too long. £1,620. 4 cities left. Whoa, the Moscow music. This reminds me of when I was still enjoying making this. Alright, let's have a look-see at the map here. Right. Besides the map screen being covered in grass and water, it's quite clear where we've ended up now. This made me realise something. I have no idea where Egypt is. It's got this mythical quality to it where I don't actually associate the word Egypt with an existing place on Earth. When I think about Egypt in relation to the world, it's like, okay, so the world is North America, South America, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Australia, all that ice at the top and bottom, and Egypt is somewhere in our minds, completely made up, and we all believe it's a real place. If someone said to me that you get on a boat for 2 hours, get off the dock, and you're immediately looking at the pyramids, I believe them. If someone said to me they've been researching ancient mythology, specifically the lost cities of Atlantis and Egypt, I wouldn't question that either. The pyramids just seem too interesting to actually exist. The Eiffel Tower doesn't make me question reality, but these things do. After confirming that it is indeed a real place, we can begin our search. Picking up a couple of pieces of garbage that represent enormous cultural icons, we stroll up to the Mosque of Muhammad Ali. Yeah, I thought of him straight away as well. They're missing the gingerbread clock, which we just picked up. It's funny what knowledge you accumulate over life. I don't know where Egypt is, but I know what a gingerbread clock is. It's these hideous things that your grandmother might have had. Everyone's seen one. I bet a lot of you didn't know they're called gingerbread clocks. You probably just thought old clocks just sort of look like that. I bet a lot of you probably also know where Egypt is, so we're even. Thanks for the 1,400 Egyptian pounds, Mayor. I should mention, like some of the other places we've visited, there isn't just a clear-cut mayor here. Seems that Cairo is more of a governor and governates situation. So best I can tell, in 1993, I should be thanking Mohammed Omar Abdel Akkar. Thanks, dude. Cairo also confirms that Peach in this universe has dozens of identical sisters, aligning with the previously mentioned Officer Jenny Nurse Joy theory. There is a road here that has 2 tourist kiosks basically next door to each other, and there is a moment as you run past where both Peaches are visible. If they didn't appear on screen at the same time and were separated by even a microsecond, I could be convinced into some sort of elaborate trapdoor and tunnel setup, but here it is, clear as day. These are 2 separate women. Was every single Peach we encountered a different woman? Maybe, but not necessarily. Some of the kiosks are far enough apart that maybe she would do a morning shift on this side of town and then finish her workday on the other side of town. I'm not here to 100% confirm that every Peach we have encountered is a different person. You'll have to get that scoop somewhere else. I will not confirm anything unless I have undeniable proof. Actually, in that spirit, I take back what I said about this confirming an Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy family situation. All this confirms is that Peach has 1 identical sister. Back on track, let's secure Cairo and move on. Surely this can't be the entire pyramid. I don't think the game would go that far. Oh, thank God. 1,190 Egyptian pounds. Looks like we've gotten some sort of pharaoh hat or something. Oh, it's called a claft. So it's the claft of the Sphinx. The Sphinx, not the old claft of a pharaoh or something, it's the enormous limestone one that's sitting on top. Man, that's a hard one to handle. Let's just get our 1750 and a photo and not think about it too much. See you, Cairo. Thanks for teaching me where you are and that you are real. Nice looking place. I will say that soon you'll have a yen to see Mount Fuji, 60 miles west of the city. So we've gone from a place that I thought was a fantasy land to a place that just acts like one. Let's walk on foot and talk to a couple of the locals before getting stuck into it. Seems a shame to rush this one. It's probably the most aesthetically pleasing place we've been. Welcome to Tokyo, my little man. You are in the capital of Japan. Luigi is little, isn't he? This Japanese city used to be called Edo before the emperor changed it in 1877. For some reason, I don't know why, but I fact-checked this guy, and from what I can tell, he's 9 years late on that. Everywhere else I've read says that the name changed from Edo to Tokyo in 1868. For someone that looks like Einstein, that sure is a dumb mistake there, buddy. The only notable thing that happened in Tokyo in 1877 was the first of 5 national industrial exhibitions was held. Momentous in its own right, sure, but not quite mentioned to Luigi on the street worthy. Wonder how many other facts in this game have been wrong. A bit of a fatal flaw in an educational game, one might say. Pretty soon we find some sumo undies, I forget what they're actually called. Coincidentally, we're right around the corner from the Kokugikan Arena, which informs us we're holding a sumo apron. This is called an apron. This is a real place. Learning heaps today. We tell Peach that sumo wrestlers push each other out of the ring and the ring is shaped like a circle. Complex stuff. And we get 1,040 yen from Governor Suzuki. Although you're in the continent of Asia, this country is a band of 3,904 islands. I liked it more when you rhymed. The next item we get is what could be an orange, a mandarin, or a kumquat, depends how zoomed in this picture is. I'm liking this trend of finding things that are actually carryable by a human being so far. Keep it up, Tokyo. Let's get Yoshi over here now. It seems a shame to exclude Yoshi from his homeland. That's right, I said homeland. I know Yoshi isn't from Japan, but here's a backstory idea for you. Mario and Luigi are said to be from either Brooklyn, New York, or the Mushroom Kingdom, and Yoshi is said to be from Yoshi's Island. I think in the games where Mario and Luigi are from the Mushroom Kingdom and no one says anything more, Yoshi can be from Yoshi's Island. That makes sense, all good. The times when Mario and Luigi are from Brooklyn, New York, Yoshi should be from Japan, somehow. I think Yoshi's name is so synonymous with the character that you don't even notice anymore that Yoshi is such a Japanese word. I don't know what this Japanese-born Yoshi's origin story would be. Maybe an egg fell off Mount Fuji and bounced down a pipe to the Mushroom Kingdom. A warp pipe at the base of Mount Fuji is no weirder than warp pipes in New York. No one would bat an eye if that was the backstory. Mario games get away with paper-thin stories, it would work. And to anyone thinking, well, Yoshi's name isn't actually just Yoshi, according to an official Nintendo character guide, it's T. Yoshi saw Munchakoopas. Yeah, mate, a lot of us have seen that fun little bit of trivia. One internal Nintendo character guide from Nintendo of America from 1993 said that, and nothing else. It's not applicable anymore. Wait a second. 1993? Am I playing the only Mario game where, canonically, their name is T. Yoshi saw Munchakoopas? I can't get hung up on this, we've got a citrus to return. We come across the final item in transit, what looks like a lantern. Wow, all 3 items could have easily been held by someone. Even all 3 at once. Sure, your hands would be pretty full, but you could easily do it. Is this the first time this has happened? I went back and looked at all the city's artifacts so far, and you can make a case for Buenos Aires and Sydney, but it's a stretch. I think this is the only time I haven't had to stretch my brain and handle what's going on. I don't need to. Almost anyone can hold a sumo apron and a lantern and an orange/mandarin/kumquat. As much as I want to roam the streets of Tokyo just holding stuff, let's finish this up. We give the lantern back to the Sensoji temple and get 1,755 yen, and now we're just walking around Tokyo with a single piece of fruit. People do that. Someone is probably doing that right now as I type this, and also as I read this. I'm very happy about that. The fruit is finally identified as an orange, and I'm sure the great Buddha of Kamakura is pleased to have it back. As pleased as I am for receiving 975 yen for it. We're in the final stretch now, 2 cities to go. The penultimate city. Man, this place looks nice too. But where are we? It covers nearly 1/2 of South America. It's the 5th largest country in the world. I'm pretty sure that means we're in Brazil, but what I know and don't know about geography is a real mess, and I'm not to be trusted. But hey, I know what that is. The big Jesus, I've seen that. 5th biggest country, 1st biggest Jesus, surely. Brazil or not, I know that that big boy is in Rio de Janeiro. I do know that. Immediately we find a seashell. What is that? Some sort of conch? There's types of seashells, isn't there? Isn't conch one of them? The thing that ain't is a clam. Anyway, this isn't Japan. Let's get tea over here. It's the land of samba and mamba, the soul music of Brasilia. What a curveball this guy throws at you. We're not in Brasilia, we're in Rio de Janeiro. Trying to trip you up. Talk about a difficulty spike. What about this shell, mate? What do you think of that? While eating a banana, I slipped on the sands of Copacabana. I'm sorry to hear that. Hard to make that one rhyme with an Australian accent. I didn't want to say Copacabana, I wanted to say Copacabana because of the Barry Manilow's smash hit Copacabana at the Copa from 1978. But there is no way I'm saying banana, not even for Marioismissing. I have my limits. We grab our next artifact and it's a... Don't know what that is. It looks like a wrench on a steel cable on a red floor or something. I really don't know. Well, we come to the Copacabana beach with seashell in hand. Just quickly, I feel like Peach would love that song. I honestly feel Peach in any iteration would love Copacabana by Barry Manilow. Do you understand what I'm saying? She really shines in a beach setting, you know? Sleeveless Mario Sunshine Peach. Her beach outfit from Odyssey. Her level in Double Dash is called Peach Beach. She is a beach woman. I'd like to give this shell as a gift to Peach, as we all know she would love it, but alas, she is a civil servant first and beach lover second. Mayor Cesar Maya gives us our 1,350 Cruzeiros in exchange. Much like francs and lira before, this is not the current currency of Brazil. 1993 is actually the last year where the Cruzeiros were used. It's the real now. Just a quick reminder of the economic setting in Marioismissing. We pick up our final artifact too, which is some spotlights it looks like. Probably for the statue, I would guess. It all depends on whatever this thing actually is. Sugarloaf Mountain is where this mysterious item is from, and it turns out to be a cable car. Such a weird depiction of a cable car. It's definitely a cable, but that could be a cable to anything that requires cables. Weird artistic choice not depicting a cable car, just the cable. Sugarloaf Mountain is a great name for a mountain, just quietly. For returning an entire cable car, we get 2,250 Cruzeiros and a photo of the mountain, no cable cars in sight. I'm starting to think the designers of this game maybe didn't know what a cable car was, but were somehow lumped with using one as an artifact. Well, I know what a cable is, the artist mutters to himself. So the spotlights are indeed for the big man, so let's get him lit up properly, huh? Good joke response you can choose there, saying that Christ the Redeemer statue is made of Play-Doh. Good stuff. And then it asks what group donated to have the statue of Jesus Christ built. I wonder which of these 3 groups would have wanted a giant statue of Jesus Christ. 1,200 Cruzeiros. To the south is Argentina, to your left is Peru. I'd brush up on my Portuguese if I was you. Maybe the best sentence in the game. That's what I'm talking about, that's why we're here. With that done, we're up to the final city of the game. We get a good look at the fidgety Roy, who will get utterly stomped after we finish this city. We can't be stopped now. Yeah, alright. Good one to end on. You don't drive in New York, so let's do this on foot. You can even see in this unedited footage here, I pulled up the globulator and then immediately said, no, you know what? I'm walking. Some good signs here in the city, like drink cool cool yum and watch TV 200. It's made up of 5 boroughs. This borough is Manhattan. Alright, well this borough needs some cleaning up, and I don't mean the piles and piles of garbage, I mean the dozen or so Coopers. The garbage isn't Luigi's problem, that's a local government thing. Okay, so we've gone around the blocks and picked up all the artifacts. Let's see what we have. We have the statue that's in the intro of 30 Rock, the Statue of Liberty's torch, and that's King Kong, isn't it? That's King Kong, the first fictional artifact we've gotten. That's fun, isn't it? The Empire State Building is closed with King Kong missing. Did these people see the movie? The building should be closed when he's not missing. I want to return King Kong. I love how this little sentence looks. In this font, in this context, it's perfect. The 8th wonder of the world is worth $1,960 in 1993, according to Mayor David Dinkins anyway. I really hate how King Kong is nowhere to be found in this photo. Huge missed opportunity there. Next stop is the Rockefeller Center to return the statue of Prometheus. I do know what this is, I know the name and I know where it lives. I said the statue from 30 Rock earlier, for fun. Just a little bit of fun, referring to a sitcom. We're not too serious here. $1,700 from David for this one, and a Christmas time photo of the place. Does this game take place in December? I really hope not, because that throws a lot of my 1993 references out the window. Even here, David Dinkin was only mayor until November 1993. Should I be thanking Giuliani instead? We're way too far into this video to go back and fact check everything I've said to see if it's correct in the context of December 1993. Including me, we all want this video to be over soon. Our final artifact of New York City and the final artifact of the entire game, the Statue of Liberty torch. The last time we ever get to see her. Luigi has outgrown his crush on Peach and has morphed into a platonic admiration. And to finish things off, we inform her that the Statue of Liberty honours the friendship between America and France, and that the statue looks like the sculptor's mother. And with that, we get our final payout of the game, $1,750. Luigi walks in, gets the final photo of Lady Liberty herself. As he leaves, he realises he can never get over his crush on Peach, and it will hurt whenever he thinks of her for the rest of his life, and he begins the long walk back to the blue pipe. As he turns the corner, we pull up the globulator for the last time, summon Yoshi, scare Pokey away, and complete our journey around the world. Full of piss and vinegar from an emotional ending to the trip, Luigi strikes immediately. Roy doesn't know what hit him, and we start the fight immediately with a 2-hit combo, and we don't let up, and the whole fight lasts 7 seconds. Roy didn't stand a chance. For anyone who hasn't played this game before, you might be surprised to find out that that was the final boss of the game, technically. Once you enter the metal grated door after Roy, it's a cutscene to the end, no more gameplay. As a reminder, this game is called Marioismissing, not Bowser vs UNESCO, featuring Luigi. So Mario being missing was the inciting incident, and it's the main plot point we're wrapping up here. Luigi flips a lever to release his missing brother and they're reunited, but oh no, here he comes! But just as quickly as he appears, Luigi flips the same lever, the other way, which exposes a hole in the ground, a cannon rises out, Bowser pulls some funny faces, this one in particular is really something special, and gets blown away. Surprisingly, he also freezes and shatters, which has got to be one of the more explicit death scenes in a Mario game. There's no coming back from that. And then the credits roll. You now might be expecting me to start shitting on this cutscene ending. One, for the fact that there is no actual final boss fight, and two, it's a pretty shabby cutscene. But if it's not obvious already, this isn't about me throwing shade at Marioismissing. I adore this game. Yeah, I suppose it would have been nice to have one more interactive segment where maybe you jump over some fireballs being spat out by Bowser and you have to reach the lever to then flip it. Like the previous Koopa Kids fight, there doesn't need to be any damage or game over condition, maybe it just knocks you back and you have endless attempts until you reach it. Something like that would have been cool, but what we got is also fine. The game doesn't set you up for being disappointed here, you didn't get any real action sequences before this. As stated ages ago during the first Koopa Kid encounter with Ludwig, I feel not having those Koopa Kid fights at all would have actually been better than having them. In a similar spirit, even though I just gave an example of something interactive they could have done, I feel this cutscene is probably better than attempting anything too fancy anyway. Now that we've completed the game, I should probably launch into some sort of wrap up, but before I do that, I want to find something out. As you know, we've been receiving money rewards in every city as we returned artifacts. What I would really like to know is exactly how much money did we make across the whole adventure, and could Luigi live off this money for the rest of his life? Could he retire off of this adventure? So to figure this out, there's a few things we need to do. Firstly, let's tally up all the earnings. Next, let's convert this into a single currency. The currency that would make the most sense, I think, would be USD, since Mario and Luigi are sometimes from Brooklyn, New York. What seemed like a good idea would be to convert all these currencies based on their 1993 value into 1993 United States dollars, but what I quickly found out is that a lot of these numbers are far too low to be a feasible reward for what Luigi did. For example, our total Japanese yen was 3,770. If we take 3,770 yen in 1993 and convert it to 1993 United States dollars, it is worth $12.11. Even worse was trying to figure out the currencies that are no longer in circulation. The 4,400 lira we acquired, based on what converters I played around with, came out at being worth $1.15 in 1993 USD. I'm no expert on lira inflation rates, but with our estimated total, Luigi maybe could have put a 10% deposit on a studio apartment in the rough part of Toad Town, but definitely not retire off these earnings. Let's look at these amounts differently. Let's assume all those monetary rewards we've been receiving are already shown in their US dollar value. We can just add them all together. We have a total of 75,079 1993 United States dollars. While we're starting off with USD here, Luigi doesn't actually live in Brooklyn, does he? We just needed a jumping off point. We need to now convert these United States dollars into the currency of where he actually lives, which is the Mushroom Kingdom. And we all know the Mushroom Kingdom trades with coins. To get an estimate of how many Mushroom Kingdom coins, or MKC, we have, we need to do a little bit of mental stretching. If 100 coins gets you an extra life, we can abstract this into the general cost of living, meaning you have enough money you won't game over. Believe it or not, it's actually quite difficult to find out average costs of living for 30 years ago in countries you have no financial frame of reference for. After some research to the best of my ability, I've determined that the monthly average cost of living in the United States in 1993 was $1,175. Since we're converting this into MKC, I don't think we can just go off American stats, we need to include Japan as well. Since the Mushroom Kingdom we all know today was primarily created by both Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Japan. The monthly cost of living in 1993 Japan was 322,427 yen. We'll convert this to USD to make them the same just to simplify the addition. This becomes 1,037 USD. We now have two average costs of living, both in USD, one for America and one for Japan, being 1,175 and 1,037 respectively, which will now take and split the difference. So, in our fictional financially combined country of which we're using as a Mushroom Kingdom proxy, the monthly cost of living is 1,106 United States dollars. This is all well and good, but as I said earlier, 100 coins is the Mushroom Kingdom's monthly cost of living when using its own currency. So this means that 100 coins is worth 1,106 USD. We have a total of 75,079 United States dollars, and if Luigi went down to the Mushroom Kingdom bank and got this converted into Mushroom Kingdom coins, he would receive 6,790 coins. The monthly cost of living in the Mushroom Kingdom is 100 coins, so with 6,790 coins, Luigi could live 67.9 months. Let's just round that up to 68 months, because I'm sure Luigi has a few extra coins kicking around somewhere. To sweeten the deal a bit here, Luigi absolutely lives with Mario, so we can split that cost of living right in half, doubling the time he could live off this money. This brings his 68 months up to 136 months, which equals 11.3 years. It's never been officially stated, but Mario and Luigi are believed to be in their 20s, whether it's early or late 20s, who knows? But even if Luigi is in his late 20s, he would have to get a job or go on another adventure around the age 40 mark. I'm not sure how good the Mushroom Kingdom retirement scheme is, but I doubt pension payments kick in that early. It should all be stated that this is all under the assumption that Luigi is living very frugally for all those years as well. What's more likely is that he would do some frivolous spending from time to time. Maybe he takes Daisy out for dinner and a movie, maybe he buys Yoshi a gift on their birthday, or maybe Luigi just wants to treat himself every now and then. He's earned the right. Because Luigi is a human being with human being desires and the need for community, friendship and personal interests, all of which can incur a financial cost, we can safely take a good few stacks of coins away from the cost of living pool. So instead of having 11.3 years worth of coins, he probably has something more in the 7 to 9 year range. Using all of this, we can say with utmost certainty that Luigi could not retire off of this adventure, not even close. I love Marioismissing, in small chunks. Playing through the whole thing like this has really showed me how boring and repetitive the game gets, which isn't a revelatory thing to say about this game. It's not exactly seen in high esteem. It does what it sets out to accomplish, I think. It teaches you some geography and a bit of culture from around the world with a nice Mario paint job on top of it. This game is weirdly important to me. I don't doubt it's because of when I played it, right in the sweet spot of early adolescence. For those watching who have played video games for as long as they can remember, this game, for me, sits in that short list of games that have that almost magic nostalgia to them. Not the kind of nostalgia where you think those were some fun times, I should check that game out again, and you play it and you have a fun time exploring a nice memory. But Marioismissing is in that zone of my brain where I wish I could live. I see these buildings along with this music, and if there was a way to stay nestled in that one fold of my brain forever, I would. That one synapse firing off for that fraction of a second where you 100% feel like you're back in time just for a brief moment. That's what this game is for me. It is on that very short list of media that makes me feel that way. It doesn't matter how good or bad this game is, I would never play it for fun or for a challenge. I only play it to grab that feeling, and despite how brief it is, it's still worth feeling. Remember when I framed this whole thing around my divorced parents? That seemed like a lifetime ago now. I guess this goes to show how you remember forms of media under different environments, you know? It's not that I prefer one of my parents to the other, but I did prefer my childhood home to my dad's dimly lit 1.5 bedroom rental. I have 2 parents. For this format to make any sense, I would have talked about a minimum/maximum of 2 games. But instead of ditching the divorced parents umbrella and just talking about the one game I wanted to, I proceeded to double down and talked about thinking about learning how to play the one I didn't play, and then end up not learning how to play it for some reason, chronicled that in video form and posted on the internet so it can never truly be destroyed, all for the sake of a 15-minute ramp up, which did not really need to be done. It's the journey that matters, not the romance of the 3 kingdoms, as they say. I don't actually own this game. All the memories I tucked away from this were based on my Heathmont Civic Video rental copy from the 90s, of which I was unfortunately unable to buy once they started selling off their older games. Some other weirdo must have convinced their parents to get it. Can't wait to see their 32-page scripted YouTube video about it. I recently went to a retro game store and they had a complete in-box PAL copy of Marioismissing on the SNES, and I inquired the shopkeeper how much it was, and he informed me that he actually had 2 complete in-box copies, one being $275, which was a high number, and the other $299, which was an even higher number. I didn't buy either copy, despite the irrational part of me very much wanting to. One day, I will buy a complete in-box copy of this game. I will display it prominently in my home, and then once a fortnight or so I will pick it up, stare at it, fall back into those nostalgic feelings again for a moment, put it back and get on with my life. This game wouldn't even scrape the bottom of my theoretical top 100 games list. As a video game, it's not good enough. But I don't play this game because it's good. I play this game because it makes me feel good.